is, I think, an unhelpful one. It encourages it encourages a belief that if one side is right, the other side must be wrong. In our daily discourse, we usually take for granted that one of the two opposites is superior to the other. Light is better than darkness. White is better than black. Male dominates female. Success beats failure. The idea of day and night being opposite leaves no room for dawn or twilight. The idea of male and female being diametrically opposed fails to recognise that we're all on a spectrum. We all have aspects that our culture labels male or female. In our primary school textbook, the opposite of detective was given as criminal. The notion that the detective is the opposite of the criminal, and therefore morally superior to him or her, makes it more difficult for us to imagine the possibility of police corruption, or the possibility that the causes of crime are complex, and not necessarily the manifestation of evil, that word so beloved by the Herald Sun and other tabloids. Crime is only what a society defines as crime. Sometimes it is our obligation to challenge the definitions. Thoreau said that in an unjust society, the only place for a just person is in prison. The belief that the police were pure and incorruptible was so entrenched in the British judicial system that lawyers habitually warned their clients that if they claimed the police were lying, the judge would inevitably punish them with a longer sentence. It wasn't until 1963 when Police Inspector Harold Challinor arrested a man during a political demonstration, planted a half brick on him, then charged him with carrying an offensive weapon, that evidence of police dishonesty was finally accepted. Challinor was subsequently classified as mentally ill, which meant that he avoided prosecution. His diagnosis reminds us of another dangerous pair of binary opposites, sane and insane. Many books and movies love the idea that heroes and villains are opposites. Horror movies embrace scenarios where nice, innocent families struggle to defeat evil spirits. In Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, the names of the characters let us know very quickly who is good and who is evil. Nazgul, Balrogs, Malfoy, Voldemort. What a nasty lot they must be. But on the other hand, Peregrine, Galadriel, Faramir, and good solid Anglo names, Harry, Ron, George. There won't be much wrong with a character named Luna Lovegood. We are attracted to horror movies and fantasies because they let us dwell happily in an unchallenging world of binary opposites. I could grudgingly say of Adolf Hitler that he endowed us with one small favour. He gave us the nasty Nazis, whom we can loathe unreservedly. Hence Hollywood movies in which Indiana Jones and Captain America battle against the brutes of the Third Reich. And in cheering for those heroes, we can forget the ambiguities of real life. Sometimes a more creative approach to naming opposites can bring surprising results and give us helpful insights. If in primary school, when asked the opposite to love, I had written hate, I would have got a very satisfying red tick. But there's a better answer. In 1986, Nobel Prize winner and Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel said that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. He went on to say the opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. Because of indifference, one dies before one actually dies. To be in the window and watch people being sent to concentration camps or being attacked in the street and to do nothing, that's being dead. By approaching life more thoughtfully, we have a much greater chance of making the kind of progress that we all crave. Just on Monday night on Q&A, Attorney General George Brandis stated a position which is very popular with members of the government. When discussing boat people, Brandis essentially said that we as a nation have only two choices. Either the refugees drown at sea or they go to the hellholes of third world refugee settlements. That's it, two choices. Yet on the day that Malcolm Turnbull became Prime Minister, he said, "The Australia of the future has to be a nation that is agile, that is innovative, that is creative." In 1988, Prime Minister Bob Hawke said that Australia needed to become the clever country. One would have thought that a clever, agile, creative country might be able to come up with more than two outcomes for people fleeing from persecution and violence. If I asked a grade 4 class to brainstorm possible solutions to the boat people problem, I'd be confident that they'd come up with 40 solutions in a quarter of an hour. In one of his songs, Canadian singer Gordon Lightfoot says, "The house that you live in will never fall down if you pitied a stranger who stands at your gate." That seems a more useful starting point for thinking about boat people and refugees. Here's a story from Amharic tradition. It's called The Woman and the Pot, and it's paraphrased and abridged by me. Two women were talking one day. One said to the other, "We always work hard, we carry big bundles and take care of the children. Yet the king always gives high positions to men. He never gives high positions to women." Her friend agreed and said, "Let's talk to the king about it." They went to the palace. When they saw the king, they got down on their knees. "Oh, king, please answer this question. Why do you always give high positions to the men and low positions to the women?" The king answered, "I can't tell you, but my advisor can. Go to him and he will explain it to you." He gave the women a pot. "Take this to my advisor," he said. "There is a letter inside for him, but do not open the pot yourselves." The women promised to obey and they went away. "I want to open the pot," one said. "I want to see what is inside." The other agreed. "Let's do it," she said. "The king will not know." The women opened the pot. A yellow bird flew out and went straight to the palace. Inside the pot was a card that said, "Women do not obey orders." Then the women understood why the king never gave them high positions. This is a very popular children's story in Ethiopia. It is not hard to guess the effect on kids as they hear of the obsequiousness of the women towards the king, the way in which women are portrayed as unreliable and inquisitive, and the submissive conclusion, then the women understood why the king never gave them high positions. Essentially, when we deal with binary opposites, we are dealing with a violent hierarchy, where one of the two terms governs the other. Only one can survive. In the story of the women and the pot, it is the strength of women and the power of female energy which do not survive. The male hierarchy remains intact and unchallengeable. I have often quoted Andre Gide's maxim that the colour of truth is always grey. Only by approaching life with this understanding, rather than one of binary opposites, can you, our first Alice Miller graduates, thoughtfully engage with the world, resist propaganda and hysteria, and make a real contribution to human progress. Thank you.
It's my privilege to be Master of Ceremonies this evening. My name's Basil, for those of you who don't know, and I just want to briefly acknowledge some of the organising stuff that's gone into this evening. Janine Riley's prepared the beautiful food that's on the side over there for you to snack on beforehand and afterwards. All the staff members have been involved, obviously, in lots of ways getting tonight organised, but Sky Myers in particular was really worried about the decorations for this room. She wanted it to look sparkly and she wanted it to look pretty and she wanted it to look important and respectful, so she worried about it for days beforehand and came in early today and started smarting the place up, and I think she's done a really lovely job. It looks relaxed, it looks slightly daggy, it looks gorgeous, it looks homey, and we've got a painting in the background by Sasha, who's in year 10, which has a figure sitting under a tree, and in some ways I just wanted to use that as a bit of a metaphor for this, the next stage of our graduates' lives, the kind of contemplative future we're hoping for from them, or we're hoping for them. I'm now going to invite up staff members who will, and students, and the students will give their presentations, and then the staff member will speak to that student. And so the first staff member up will be Anne, and the first student up will be Emma.
Oh, so Emma's first. Oh. Everyone, this is Emma Cotty. I'm a little taller than that. Okay. Hi. So here we are, we're finishing school and we're about to enter the adult world. God help us. So, just over 2 years ago, I found myself at a school that I despised, where I often hid in my wardrobe just so I wouldn't have to go to school, which never actually worked. I've spoken openly about depression before, and being told by a teacher that it's my own fault that I was getting bullied by certain students didn't exactly help my mental health. So I suddenly dropped out, moved to Counterbark, and soon to Alice Miller, and the rest is history. I was stunned that both of these schools had such welcoming atmospheres where kids were encouraged to make their own choices, which is something I'd never seen before. I always hated how other schools' teachers really spoke down to you and how everything was so structured on status. I love how this idea just simply doesn't exist at Alice Miller. Being treated as an equal really encouraged me to want to learn rather than to be forced by my teachers. It doesn't matter who you are, teacher, student, visiting parent, or small child, or dog, you were treated with the same respect as anyone else, a crucial idea that most schools just seem to ignore. For students from mainstream schools, believed to be a lack of rules actually creates a bond between teacher and student like no other. Anyway, thank yous. The bit that makes everyone feel good about themselves for about 5 minutes. Obviously, have to thank my parents. Cheers for sending me here. Paying fees, all that jazz, and being so encouraging with all my theatre work and helping me make props and stuff 2 days beforehand. To both John and Sarita, where have they gone? Oh well. Who, without your work, this school would never exist, and I would probably be laying in a ditch somewhere. To Bettina, who forced me to actually pass Year 12 maths, and miraculously I enjoyed it. Which is witchcraft. To Anne, who gave me so many opportunities to build on my performing skills, and I maintain that Shakespeare and Alice was the most fun I've ever. All of you make Alice Miller what it is, a community. I want to say a few words about the Year 12s. I'll try and make this quick so I don't ugly cry. I'll start with Stephen. Stephen, what an interesting couple of years we've had. A few weeks ago, we had a very interesting conversation in the back of my mother's car, which I don't think you remember. You said something about how we really grew as friends this year and how much you respect me after what we've been through. And I agree, I think we really have built a friendship. Shanae, your happy-go-lucky attitude amazes me. I admire how people can be so uplifting and always make me and everyone else, even when they're the most pissed off, just smile. Callum, I believe your puns are very underrated, and your sense of humour has always got me in tears. Callum's sense of humour isn't something you often think about when you think about Callum, but your jokes will always make me smile. Yasmin and I met when we were just both 13. We went to the same school, and we always got along really well. You put up with all my crap, my emo phase when I was 14, and my One Direction phase when I was 13. And we've really been on a journey together, and I've watched you grow over the last 2 or so years into a much stronger young woman. The lovely Siobhan, the strong but silent type, I remember last year when we all went down to the soccer pitch and you were the first to slide through the mud. Obviously, so many years with boys made you daring, which is always an amazing quality. When I first started at Counterbark, I remember being petrified. I thought everyone would hate me, because they usually did. But when I arrived, I was soon greeted by Oliver, who took me under his wing to introduce me to everyone and made me feel more comfortable. And I want to thank you for this. I can't see you, sorry. Whenever I'm upset about anything, Harrison is always the first person to make sure I'm okay. And it just makes me so happy when I see a message from you, checking up on me when I'm sad. Cheers. Darcy, your stupid sense of humour has literally made me roll on the ground laughing. You also have such a happy-go-lucky nature that amazes me and makes anyone smile. Bethany and I don't have any classes together, and we were unable to bond as much as some of the others, but I really admire your intelligence and, from what I can see, how you stand up for what you believe in and that you're not afraid to be heard. Melissa, you have taught us all an important lesson. Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones that have the most interesting things to say. And of course, you aren't afraid to stand up for what you believe in, which is always an amazing quality. Eddie, I love that you are always down to chat about whatever, and I hope to see your amazing impressions once again. Jared, when we first met, we were very close friends, but we drifted apart, which happens. But I maintain that you and our stupid conversations on the Counterbuck bus has really helped me mature and become the person I am today. And finally, Tia, who unfortunately can't be here, I wanted to say that she's amazingly hardworking and her effort pays off, and she has so much ahead of her, and that she's an amazing person. I wish I could spend more time with her. So basically, to the teacher in Year 8 who told me I'd never get an ATAR, look at this. Cheers.
When a new drama teacher starts at a new school, one of their greatest fears is that they'll be confronted with a bunch of introverts. When Emma Crotty burst into the meeting room on the very first day of Alice Miller, I knew I was going to be okay. And since then, Emma, it has to be said, has left an indelible mark. Her inventory of wild and dysfunctional characters ranges from a homeless Tourette sufferer with a multiple personality disorder, a pretty violent, media-hungry narcissist who was always in love and stalked her lovers and was aptly named Salome, the richest and most miserable woman in the world who tempts a bunch of nice people to murder her ex-lover out of vengeance, and one of the scariest portrayals of Lady Macbeth I've ever seen, and I think Darcy has ever seen. Emma's characters are infused with her larger-than-life personality and fascination with the macabre. She's the only person I've ever met that says she's never been scared in front of a horror film. Nor is she frightened to fight for what she believes. So it's interesting you say that about others, because that's what I see in you, Emma. As a result, there were occasions where emotions ran high in the rehearsal room. However, this ardent desire for excellence is what makes extraordinary artists. And as Emma becomes more adept at directing her passions, she will be excellent at whatever she chooses to do in life. Finally, Emma's big personality comes with a big heart. She has been a huge support to her classmates, enjoying their successes even when it meant she missed out. Her final performance, that of an Irish mother struggling to control her grief at the loss of her little girl who drowned in a swimming accident, was both subtle, tender, and heartbreaking. Emma, it's been an amazing ride being your teacher, and I wish you every success on your journey.
And if you'd like to stay up here, please. And Sinead, if you'd like to come up to the stage.
I'd like to introduce Sinead Davies.
So Alice Miller has become a second home for me over the past 2 years, and I have all of you to thank for that. Each and every person in this room has contributed into making the lovely people I've spent my last 2 years of school with who they are today, and for that I'm forever grateful for. It's been a crazy journey, but I always knew I had and still do have the love and support of my friends and family and teachers, and that's all one could ever ask for. Although it saddens me to leave, I'm so very excited for everyone graduating tonight and the adventures to come. I know we will all carry a piece of Alice Miller with us throughout our life endeavours, but that's mostly because I think we've all inhaled enough glitter from the meeting room roof to last us a lifetime.
thing you notice about Shanae, or Shane as her friends prefer to call her, is just how nice she is. Cheerful and forever the optimist. She has a sense of humour designed to flatter. No matter how lame my jokes were on a Friday afternoon just before clean-up, Shanae would grace them with her irrepressible giggle. And suddenly I was Joan Rivers. But it's important to note that despite her charm, Shanae is no pushover. On the contrary, she's tough. When she told me that she was going to buy a van and travel around Australia by herself, I believed her. Anybody else and I would have laughed condescendingly and suggested that they get their head out of the clouds, as my mother used to say to me whenever I had a fun idea. However, Shanae is far more sensible and independent than I was at her age. And unlike me, she's in control of her emotions. When passions competed and rehearsals became heated, she simply refused to participate. She was Buddhist-like in her discipline and lack of ego. I learnt a lot about how to manage myself with dignity through observing Shanae. Although Year 12 was not all smooth sailing, she put her head down and got on with it. As a result, she blossomed. Before Alice Miller, she'd never acted on stage before. After Alice Miller, she'd stalked Jared through the playground as the deeply troubled Helena in Shakespeare at Alice, and revealed a rich bluesy voice in The Man from Muckanuppin. Earlier this term, she walked into her drama performance exam and delivered a self-written solo piece that saw her transform seamlessly into a multitude of characters, all with different accents and very particular neuroses and physical tics. She has accomplished so much in the short time that I've known her. Shanae, it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege, and I wish you all the best.
I'd like to welcome Mr. Scott Hatcher to the stage. Scotty? Scotty would like to welcome Eddie.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eddie Spicer.
I wasn't really too sure what I was going to say when I found out I had to come up here and give a short speech, but I figured the best I can do is just be honest and just explain how thankful I am for being able to come to such a great school. It's no secret that I wasn't happy at my last school. I was depressed and bored, and the idea of trying to get through what was left of Year 11 and then all of Year 12 was really just horrific and daunting, considering how school had been going for me up to that point. But Alice Miller, the teachers, the students, made the year feel doable and, dare I say, fun. I suppose it still hasn't really sunk in that this was the final year, the last big push because of just how much I enjoyed my time. I discovered new subjects and topics that I didn't know I would have had an interest in, and the variety and quality of my writing and art has vastly improved, at least in my opinion. But more importantly than that, I've made a whole host of great new friends in both the students as well as the teachers, who I'm incredibly happy to have spent time with. I always assumed that finishing school would be a grand hurrah, a great relief, but I'll be honest, finishing my last exam and standing here now, I feel kind of sad, because Alice Miller and its people have made me feel something I genuinely never thought I would feel, and made me say something that I never thought I would, which is that I really will miss school.
One of the first videos I ever borrowed as a kid was a film called Eddie and the Cruisers. Not long after meeting Eddie Spicer, I thought of that film. Because there's no better word to sum up Eddie than a cruiser. Eddie is a cruiser. I wouldn't be surprised if most of his old school reports said so in different ways. And as one of his last teachers, I'd like to say it again, but my way. Eddie, keep cruising. Because I like cruises. I love that for one of your sacks, you thought that 16 on your paper was out of 20. And when I awkwardly told you that it was actually out of 25, you shrugged it off and said, oh well, you win some, you lose some, and sort of walked off and let it go. And you were never more a cruiser than graduation day. Dressed in your 50s gear, chewing your matchstick. The other students were just in dress-ups. But you found your error. You spoke that day with great poise and grace. That's Eddie. He really takes the floor. But when he does, it's worth it. He'll be smart and smart-ass funny. And often say just the right thing at just the right time. Whenever my job felt hard this year, it was Eddie who would centre me again and bring me back to the present with 4 simple words. And how are you? That's what cruisers do. They keep everyone else centred. So Eddie, keep cruising. Could we have Melissa Stewart to the stage? Thank you.
There are 1,000 things to say about my time at Alice Miller and everything, but we have 3 minutes, so I decided to start it with a story. When I came to Alice Miller for my first interview, I was in the worst place I've ever been in my life. I had dropped out of school for 2 years, suffering from severe depression and anxiety, and was desperate to turn my life around. I had tried to get a place in 6 other high schools and was denied all of them. After that much rejection, I was ready to give up on myself and, frankly, my life. That is until one morning in February of 2016, when my mother came rushing into my bedroom with a newspaper in hand. A new school had opened up nearby, and I knew that this was my last shot. So I took a leap of faith, one of the few I've ever taken in my short life. I know that everyone thought I was a lost cause because I thought it too. But on that first day I came here, Sarita took a chance on me and saw something in me that I never knew was there. And it was because of her decision to accept me when no other place did that I can stand here today as an adult with a license, a job, and someone who has completed her secondary studies. Someone who has proven to everyone that she is capable of more than anyone had ever thought. But it wasn't just Sarita. It was every single teacher who guided me along this journey, who didn't give up on me when I relapsed, and who took the time to make me understand what I didn't know. This year, I've put in more effort than any other in my entire life, and without the help and guidance of others, I wouldn't have made it to this end. So I need to thank Anne, Sky, and Scott for putting up with all my crap this past year, and for comforting me during my many breakdowns. And for showing a kindness and understanding that I could never have found at any other school. I was able to do things here that I never thought I could. I finally took up acting, something that I love, despite my anxiety, which had always held me back. I wrote essays that I could be proud of, and I even got an A+ on one of my final sacks. But more than anything else, I've learnt here. And not just all the stuff in the textbooks. I've learned that people can be truly kind. I learned what my limits are and when to stop pushing myself. I also learned when to push myself and when to recognize the difference between being unable to do something and simply not trying enough. But most importantly, I learned that I can achieve. And that's a lesson I'll keep with me for the rest of my life. So, to my fellow Year 12s, here's to us and everything that we've accomplished.
If we had an award for the student who found completing VCE the greatest challenge, there would be quite a few contenders sitting over there. But my vote would go for Melissa. Melissa missed a considerable chunk of high school, and if there's one thing us teachers learned about Melissa, it wasn't a passion for learning that was keeping her away. Because Melissa devours knowledge, literature, philosophy, theatre, Greek myth, and she could even pose a thoughtful psychoanalytical theory with references to Coriolanus as to why she does. This year, Melissa's first appearance for the week was generally right on time for period 2 literature. Not Melissa's best time. Melissa is not a morning person, and she is definitely not a Monday morning person. She could spend these lessons either speaking in lengthy, angsty bursts or be face down on the desk, and sometimes a combination of both. But to her credit, as the day wore on, and then the week, Melissa would pick herself up, will herself into the school routine, and day after day just keep showing up and doing the work. Melissa, what you've achieved this year is nothing short of heroic. And seeing you sitting here tonight, or standing here tonight in your moment of glory, makes me feel very proud to have been your teacher. You're now a strong, independent, warm-hearted feminist with a great life awaiting you, so go devour it. Yeah.
Such a privilege to be standing here calling up each staff member and each student and to be engaged in this little process. It just feels like some small cog in this larger cog and in this larger machine. And I'd like to invite Bettina up to the stage, please, and Cal.
Hello everyone. I wrote this speech in the High Plains and the Alpine National Park, and when I was writing it, I really struggled to kind of contextualise how grateful I am for the past 9 and a bit years at Candlebuck and Alice Miller. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm truly blessed to have had such a wonderful schooling life. For me, the unique aspect of these two schools has been that they teach you how to live and not just about school. And this is something that I realised hiking this past week, and it's increased my appreciation for John even more. So thank you, John, for everything that you've done for me, and I'm so grateful for my time at your schools, so thank you. I'd also like to thank some individuals that have had a profound impact on me over the years. I'll start with Anne and Bettina. Gee whiz, these two teachers, they work so hard, like 5 every morning, getting up, doing stuff. So thank you so much for putting the work in, and I'm really grateful for everything that you've done for us. I'd also like to thank Amy, even though she couldn't be here tonight, but she's been very influential for me. She's taught me a lot about the environment, and she's increased my care that I have for it. So thank you, Amy. Next is Sam Ford. Thank you for all the trips that you've organised. They're some of my favourite memories ever. Including the last week hiking. Sam, you're also a great role model for me and someone who I look up to. The way you conduct yourself all the time is really inspirational. And another role model of mine is Bob. Your daily humour and your work ethic is something I think everyone should look and strive towards. So yeah, thank you, Bob, for just being funny and just keeping us going. Next is Veronica. Oh, Veronica, I love you so much. You're so good, you're so warm and just lovely, and I'll definitely be back for a free pie. Basil. Oh, I don't even know where to start with Basil. Year 10 trip, you really pushed me a lot, and I grew as a person, and I would not be the person I am today without you, so thank you. Sky and Sarita, thank you for putting all the work in and making Year 12 at Alice Miller possible. It's been an amazing year, and so thank you so much for that. And so thank you to my family, Mum and Dad. You've been amazing through this journey. Also a big thank you to my grandpa, who's funded a lot of my time at Candlebuck and Alice Miller. Also, shout out to my little sister, she's pretty good. And lastly, I'd like to thank my classmates. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful to have shared so many memories with you, and I'll remember them for the rest of my life. So, thank you guys.
Callum, you've had a long journey at this school, starting at the end of grade 3. I've had the pleasure of teaching you maths for the last 3 years, which I have thoroughly enjoyed. I have 2 boys, and I hope they develop many of the qualities you possess. You're a positive, sensible, fun, kind, reliable and grounded young man who values well-rounded individuals. You love the outdoors and physical activity, especially all the outdoor opportunities school has offered you over the years. It was wonderful to see you so happy this last week hiking across the Victorian Alps. In particular, I admire your grit. A very recent example of this was on this 7-day hike. On our first day, we unintentionally ended up on a path that had 12 river crossings in which shoes had to be taken off to cross them. Although you had a sore ankle, you never complained and you did not accept any offers of help to cross these rivers to reach our campsite. I sincerely hope you keep this love for the outdoors and have many adventures in the future. I will miss you next year and I wish you all the very best, and please keep in touch. Next, I would like to introduce Darcy Oakley, please.
Seriously? Alright, I've got a memorised line that's really good, but that'll come around later. I'm going to say that my parents have taken a lot of flack this year because of my stress, and that was pretty much undeserved, and I think they've coped with it particularly well. There is something quite magical in the staff of Alice Miller, and I say that all of the staff are teachers, in that they do teach. And when we get to the definition of that word, it comes from a conversation Steve-O and I had on the high plains yesterday, where we decided that a teacher is someone who causes education to happen, and education is a morally good thing. Shout out to Sky. And I believe all the staff of Alice Miller, including John, are teachers in the truest sense of that word. There is, in the people of Alice Miller in general, an earnestness that is wiser than just kind of throwing yourself at stuff. They know that, oh yeah. Wow. My classmates are absolutely lovely, and this year would have been a bit of a kafufta without them.
Darcy, you started Canberra in year 7, and I've also had the pleasure of teaching you for the last 3 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed these years. Your tenacity to solve problems without help is admirable. I often remember looking through your year 10 workbook and being mesmerised at seeing pages after pages of working out. You tried solving problems over and over again until you found the right solution, always doing this on your own without wanting help. This is an admirable skill, especially if extended beyond math into the outside world. Over the last couple of years, I have enormously enjoyed seeing you immersed in your drama work. Your performances have been thoroughly entertaining. When you tell stories, you use your whole body and you're awesome to watch. We certainly had the pleasure of witnessing your storytelling and telling skills this last week when you entertained us with a 45-minute story about a train ride when we were hiking up a mountain. You think laterally, and you often approach problems quite differently to other students, which I find very interesting and special. I wish I will have a Darcy in every year of my teaching career. It would definitely mean that every year I would be thoroughly entertained while teaching. Darcy, you have an incredibly dry sense of humour, and I have to say that in my classes, in the majority of the occasions, your timing for jokes have been well timed. I will miss you. I wish you all the very best for the future, and please keep in touch.
It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Mr. Jared Webber.
Oh, God. So I wrote a little something. 13 years ago, I embarked on my journey through school, but it's been these last 2 years that I have enjoyed the most. Crap. Alice Miller is a warm and loving, supportive place that has truly allowed myself to learn and grow so much, and learn so much about myself. And by all means, it's not a perfect school, but the imperfections are a positive, because this tells you that it is a school at its core run by a group of caring individuals. Humans are not perfect, but at least at Alice Miller, this idea is embraced a little more. I have some damn good friends. I feel that I've bonded with more, I'm a little bit nervy. I feel that I've bonded more with a lot of people in these last 2 years. There have been there's been some damn good banter, there's been some damn good gathers, and there's been some damn good adventures, and most of all, there's been some damn good stories. It hasn't yet sunk in that I've finished. I'm trying to process it, but it doesn't seem to want to go through my head. But the fact that all of us have just suddenly finished school is crazy. Like, when did this happen? But I digress. Now for the cheesy thankful stuff. I'm extremely thankful to my classmates for being supportive most of the time. I'm extremely thankful to my teachers for their advice and wisdom, allowing me to go to this. And I'm extremely thankful to the teachers for their advice and wisdom. I'm extremely thankful to my family for allowing me to go to this school, and I'm extremely thankful to the Alice Miller community that have given me the space to learn and grow. But I have sorry. My lordy lord, it's been a long ass 2 years, and here we are at the end. I hate reading from papers because it doesn't really allow you to flow, because you're just always looking at it, and even when you rehearse a little bit before, it doesn't really work. But anyway, I'm extremely thankful to everyone, the whole Alice Miller community, everyone that has ever shown me any form of support, because it is what truly allows me to easily mill along through life, and so thank you.
Read a bit from the paper. When I met Jared, he was half my height. And my hair was longer than his. I have so many stories about this young man, and most of them would have you gasping, grimacing, gnashing your teeth, and or laughing. In particular for Jared, there've been turning points for you, and one of them in particular, was when John was walking through the art room some years ago, and he saw this work, and he said, wow, that's really good. I really like that. Whose is it? I said, it's Jared's. And he went, wow, really? I really like it. You know, do you think he'd sell it to me? And at that moment, I think for you, Jared, that was like an earthquake and a thunderbolt and a blessing all at once, because for someone to value something that Jared had done and genuinely wanted and be willing to pay money for it was something that I think was very new for you.
And it was.
The stories I could tell of Jared are not the ones I want to tell this evening. Your story has been a tough one. We know the edges of it. We have been on the journey with you, know what you struggle with, but despite the momentous difficulties, Jared, you are here. And some of the stories include chess tournaments, camps, adventures, falling in creeks and food fights and all sorts of things, and running out of class and God knows how many detentions. But in France, I said to you many times that you are not your patterns. You are not your patterns. And Jared, you have absolutely demanded from the gods and from the universe and this society some kind of new path, something different from the trajectory that you were placed on. And you've wrought that path. You've hewn it from nothing. And from now on, I want Jared's story to be a new one. We will no longer refer to the difficulties. We will no longer refer to the challenges, the work that hasn't been handed in. Can you show that piece of paper you just had? Where this is the last time we're going to look at this, you know, Exhibit A. This is what the homework, if it came in, would normally look like, but probably with less writing. We don't do that anymore. That's gone now. From now on, we are simply going to affirm who this young man is. He has produced really classy photographs. He has performed on stage some gorgeous drama work. He has shown us who he can be. And from now on, this is the new Jared. This is Jared 2.0. Well, you welcome this story. This book that we're handing to everybody is this evening is Siddhartha, and I think Sarita chose it, and it's one of my favourite books of all time by Hermann Hesse. And it's about the only journey worth making, I believe. And I'm very, very proud to be handing across these copies for other people to hand across to. Our next person will be Brennan. Would you please come to the stage and welcome up?
I'd like to invite Oliver Mitchell. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank Sam and Bettina for an amazing last week hiking. So I'll give a round of applause. I just admire the incredible trust that they are, both of them, you know, are able to give all the students that were on this camp. You know, we were climbing, there was one day where we climbed 5 mountains, and it's just astonishing that they let us, you know, walk on by ourselves, and technically we're under their care, and, you know, maybe, you know, they're kind of responsible for us. So I just think that's amazing that you have this kind of amazing trust and willing to, you know, show us risks that are beneficial, you know, for our learning, and make it able for us to, you know, to figure out who we really are. But of course, this wouldn't be possible without John and Sarita, who took a risk on making this school, Alice Miller, 2 years ago. But the journey began a lot longer, much longer ago than that, with countless stacks of paperwork, time and money, I'm sure, all to you know, enrich our lives, which I'm absolutely so grateful for. And thank you so much for risking all that just for us. I would love to thank my classmates. the new ones and the old ones from Alice Miller throughout the easy and the hard times. It's been good. It really has. You know, I really hope that we can have strong relationships for many more years. Yeah.
Oliver Mitchell is an explorer of the outdoors, an explorer of emotion and mindfulness, and an explorer of education. Without explorers, this school would not have had the successful start we all hoped for. Oliver has been a great leader on camps and outdoor activities, modelling the behaviour the school expects from all students and leading the way for other students to explore the outdoors and the environment around us. Not to forget, academically, Oliver has explored complex ideas in areas of mathematics, chemistry and biology, whilst maintaining focus on how he could use his knowledge of science to help preserve the environment so others can continue to explore. On behalf of the school, it has been a delight to see you to grow to a young man ready to explore the world, and I'm confident you will continue to explore all aspects of life and continue to give back to your communities just as you gave back to your school. We wish you all the best in your future endeavours and look forward to hearing of your future explorations. Oliver Mitchell, thank you and good luck.
Pleasure to introduce to the stage Carla Kandinsky.
To welcome Siobhan Magar.
Hi everyone. My time at Candlebark and Alice Miller has allowed me to explore my creative side, and as a result I ended up doing studio art as a VCE subject. So this piece I have here is one of my final pieces I created for studio art. My focus was Australian flora, which led me to using eucalyptus leaves as my subject matter in this reduction lino print. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a form of printmaking where you use one sheet of lino, which is sometimes referred to as a plate, and you go through the process of cutting out areas, then inking the plate, then printing it, and you repeat this process, starting with the lightest colours through to the darkest colours. Now I'll try to explain that with what I have here. So first I sketched the image, and then I decided what colours I wanted to use and where I wanted them. Then next I transferred the image onto the lino, and after that I cut out all the areas that I wanted to keep white, so all these parts, we left the stem and the leaves. And then I inked it the light green, printed it, and then I cut out the areas that I wanted to keep light green, inked it dark green, and then printed it.
So hang on, you're saying you cut away the areas that were already printed. Do you mean you're destroying the plates that you had previously made?
Yes.
That's extraordinary, John.
Yeah, so that's what I did. Yeah, and this is the final result that I cut. I found creating this piece challenging in the way that it required a lot of meticulous preparation and planning, which took a long time. However, it was incredibly rewarding to see the piece come together step by step. Now, before I wrap up, I'd like to thank all of you for listening, and I'd like to thank my classmates and my teachers that I've worked closely with, as you've all helped me grow into the person that I am today, and I look forward to seeing where the next stage of my life takes me. Thanks.
Siobhan, things must have looked up to be quite a challenge last year, but look how far you've come. Can you hear the sound of the drum? No one said that tackling a VCE language would be easy, yet with your French studies, you persevered admirably. Between the imparfait, passé composé, and plus que parfait, you must have been thinking your hair would go grey. They say where there's a will, there's a way. So here we are at the end of the day. And to the future now, French has paved a way. The lingo of Molière you thus wish to continue, and are even keen to add Spanish to the menu?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Siobhan, thy quiet strength and poise I observed, and even when apprehension or fear had you unnerved. Yours truly is a strong spirit, one with such beautiful merit. And so as you step into this big wild world, I shall wish that all your dreams come unfurled. No matter what the breeze, the sky, or the autumn, may all your dreams always find a path to blossom.
Wow.
Daniel, my friend, would you like to come on stage?
Stephen, the floor is yours.
Alright, so I guess for the last 2 years, and I know Amy's not here, but... Okay, a bit less. I know Amy's not here, but for the last 2 years in Outdoor Ed, every trip we've been on, she's made us take a diary, and we've had to write down what we've seen, heard, and all those sorts of things. And it's looking back, unfortunately, that diary was destroyed. But on this last week, during the trip, I took a moment to write down what I could see, hear, those sorts of things. And yeah, I guess I'll start by describing that to you, so then I'll get to why. Cold, unrelenting wind blowing around you. Flashes of lightning. Sharp, jagged rocks lining the cliff behind. To the right, bright blue skies and mountains as far as the eye can see. To the left, thunderous grey clouds blotting out the sky, with rain in the distance, appearing like a wall of mist slowly approaching. And somewhere in between, the sun is setting, turning to a fiery orange, which is illuminating the sprawling mountains. Yeah, it was just a bit short there. But I guess that kind of paints an image of the spectacular things that this school allows us to see and do. And without John, who obviously started it all, I don't have words, John. Just thank you is all I can say. It's just amazing. And then, of course, Sarita for taking up Alice Miller. Again, no words. But I do have words for 2 particular teachers.
Oh,
no, okay, hang on. Hold up. I'll back up a second here. I skipped a bit. I could talk for hours about the skill of the teachers and the shared memories. There's 2 teachers in particular, though, that I'd like to thank for specific moments. First is Anne, for this last year or 2, I can't, Anne, for literally dragging us through, or me particularly, through English. I'm sure I passed. So thank you, we got there eventually. And drama. I feel like my skills in drama have changed a lot, and I'm a lot more confident in performing. And second teacher is Bettina, who, from year 10, in year 10, I just refused to do the homework. I was a real brat, I would say. But Bettina's persistence, hard working for the last 3 years, haven't seen her sleep longer than 5:30, even in the last week. We got there, Bettina. I'm so happy. So happy. Thank you. And of course, to the Year 12s. Oh, God. I'm going to start crying if I keep going, but just thanks, guys. It's been great. I'm just going to...
I've known Stephen for about a year. I've worked with him in my VC Unit 3 and 4 biology throughout the year, and as all teachers do to their students, I attempted to psychoanalyze Stephen so that I can work out how to best work with him. My initial assessment was something like this. Stephen is a well-mannered and slightly introverted student and tends to shy away from class discussion. So when I saw him in the dress rehearsal for Men from Mackinappin, playing the role of the male protagonist, I was literally shocked on a cellular level. It just never came to my mind that Stephen had any theatrical element in him. No offense intended, Stephen. I became even more impressed with Stephen when I found out that he originally asked for a minor role in the play that didn't involve much singing. When Stephen heard the news that he was to play Jack Tuesday, a role that included lots of lines and singing, I suspect Stephen was faced with two tough choices. Number one, ask Anne to reconsider his initial request for the role. And if that doesn't work out, just bail out altogether. Or two, face the challenge and give his best. Stephen bravely chose the latter option, and he really delivered his best performance on all 3 nights. So Stephen, if you find yourself in a similar situation where you have to make choices to back away or face a challenge, I would like you to think back to your involvement in the school play. I'm sure it will give you the confidence to face the new challenges and come out victorious.
Students to go, gentle souls, and it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Ms. Yasmin Hopkins.
It really is bright. Hello everyone. Even though school's finished, I've stayed true to character, and this is a little last minute, I'm sorry. I am so deeply grateful for being a part of this beautiful community, and I look forward to watching it grow in the next few years. It's changed my life and maybe the course of my life. I could have never hoped to have gotten as much out of school as I did here. I've never enjoyed school before, and I've never in my life looked forward to getting out of bed and going to school and being with people that really so lovely and caring. Thank you everyone in this community for being in my life. You've really made it good. I will carry forth the memories that, and I will cherish them. I will cherish the deep connections I've made with all my classmates and my teachers, and I will also carry forth a strengthened sense of self and self-worth. And yeah, thank you again.
struggling, Yasmin is occasionally known for reaching out for support. I've already told her that for her 21st birthday, I'm going to print out all of her texts and have them bound into a volume and give them to her. It will make for hilarious reading. You are the funniest, weirdest, most delightful, strange and complex person. So thoughtful, so stuffed with potential, and so racked with self-doubt. I'm profoundly impressed with the fact that you are still here, that you have bit, fought, kicked and struggled these last 2 years. We have spent countless hours in the art room grappling with demons, pictorial, real and imagined. And I'm impressed that you seem to have spent similar hours with Sky, which confuses me because you've never actually been out of the art room. So I failed. Yasmin has vastly raised the bar of what can be done in the art room. In Year 12, for any school, the work she has produced is stunning. She has left behind an incredibly raised bar, a hell of a lot of scrubby, unwashed brushes, piles of bowls with crusty, uneaten tofu, and browning avocado secreted in corners of the room. You are replete with skills and ideas. You are a powerhouse of emotion. You are an intellectual force to be reckoned with. All we have to do now is teach you how to form the letters A, B and C in some legible way, and then we can all enjoy that which you create. Genuine delight to hand over a piece of paper that says, "Oh my God, this is done." Sky, honey. You.
I can't see you, but come on, Beth.
When I was first thinking about doing an extra year of school at the start of this year, I was so daunted. And even at the prospect of joining this wonderful new school, I was still daunted by the prospect of joining a class that I knew was so tight-knit and had been together for so long. But I knew in my first couple of weeks I felt so comfortable, and I realised that I wasn't just getting through the days anymore, I was really enjoying school. So I'm grateful for everyone here who's contributed to making me enjoy school again.
Okay. I first met Bethany in an interview with Sarita towards the end of 2016. My first impression was of a mature, intelligent young woman with an impressive sense of clarity about the direction she wanted her life to take and the reason that Alice Miller was the best place to help her get there. In spite of her enthusiasm, it was still incredibly brave for Bethany to make the decision to join us at Alice. She had to integrate with a close group of students who had a shared history and in some cases had been in class together since quite a young age. It's a testament both to her open nature and the inclusiveness of a lovely group of young people that it's now hard to imagine the spaces at Alice without her in them. Her efficient, cheerful work in the cafe kitchen, her rather legendary laughing fits, her focused diligence in class, her passionate defence of Beyonce lyrics, her insistence that I should be watching Stranger Things or at least keeping up with the Kardashians, the sound of her footsteps bringing me another practice essay to look at. Bethany is admirably and disarmingly honest about the challenges she's been through prior to her time at Alice. She bravely shared her story with the whole school in a morning meeting and presented her work in the zine Regrowth. Throughout the year, in moments that were tough or prickly, Bethany has been impressive in the way that she composed herself and carried on. Her maturity was outstanding in these instances. Proactive doesn't seem a strong enough word to describe Beth's approach to her experience at school with us. She is in fact possibly the hardest working student I've ever taught. She's worked with me to earn her education rather than passively receiving it. She's been thorough, open, hardworking, and best of all, I think she's really challenged me. Teaching a student like Bethany makes you a better teacher, and I'm very grateful to her for that. I'm so proud of what she's done with her time at Alice, and I want to wish her all the very best for the next step she takes. Wherever they go, I know she'll make them shine.
And to present the certificate and book to the final student of the evening, Anna, would you please come to the stage?
Harrison Nelson, come to the stage.
Hi, folks. I must admit that last night, as we sat around the campfire at the base of Mount Sterling and listened to the rain and fall in the leaves and played campfire games and shared feelings about the past week, I had a bit of a tear in my eye, knowing that I'd leave the school and leave the trip and all the good things that came with them both behind. But the night before, as we sat on top of Mount Speculation and watched the sunset, I noticed I kind of saw it as a bit of a metaphor. As the sun set, it didn't just go away, but it cast a really beautiful light on all the shadows and the sky. So I kind of saw the sun setting, and the light that the sun cast. It's wise and open and beautiful. As my time at Alice and Canterbuck, the last 6 years, and all the new forming lights and colours and all the reflections on the clouds. I saw that as the future, I guess. So I guess I'm really grateful to everyone, all the teachers and all the students, all the friends and family that have really made the last 6 years of my life the best. And I know that they'll continue to be phenomenal, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you. So, thank you.
I told myself I wasn't going to get emotion. There's no specific or funny anecdote that I have to tell about Harrison. Well, there's many, but really just a general description of a top bloke. I've had the pleasure of teaching Harrison both VC music subjects in the last 2 years, performance and composition. And watching his musicianship, his piano skills, his compositional voice, his understanding of music grow hugely has been one of the highlights of an already rich music teaching career. He led an ensemble of misfits this year into a competent jazz quartet, which I have to say was quite surprising. And his composition folio that he submitted at the end of the year was musically effective, catchy, joyous. This fusion of my obvious classical influence with his interest in bangers and jazz, and it was just lovely to watch. But what is really special about Harrison is not his particular ability in my subject or in any other subjects, but his overall attitude to life and learning, and the way he treats others and how he interacts with them. Harrison is kind, Harrison is funny, he's down to earth, he's a quick learner, he's committed to doing things properly, even if sometimes at the last minute. He's a good friend to many, he's passionate about social justice, the environment and the arts. His calm attitude has been a pleasant contrast to my natural stress in the music classroom, and having him in my room for the last 2 years has been a real pleasure. Harrison has been taking a broad breadth of subjects. He's been brave enough to take 6 this year, which is huge. He's taken the 2 Annas, he's taken the 2 Amy's, he's taken maths and English, which is a huge challenge. and it reflects his wide interests that have developed him into an outstanding, well-rounded young person with much to contribute to society. It's a joy to see a Year 12 student become not only a young man I'd be proud to say that I taught, but someone I would like to call a friend in future. I'm sure he'll succeed in whatever he chooses to put his attention to in the coming years, and most importantly, he'll be a wonderful colleague, a wonderful employee or employer, a wonderful friend, a wonderful collaborator, and anyone would be lucky to have him as part of their community. Please welcome to the stage Harrison Nelson.
I'm delighted to say that we are hooning along and we are a full 15 minutes ahead of time, which just marvelous. Means we'll be able to have time to have a nibble, a bit of a mingle and a bit of a tear before we head off. We're now going to do some individual awards.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a little introduction to these special awards.
Except for Alison.
I should still on tippy toes, sorry. I couldn't help it. Aristotle, I have a quote, said that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. We as a collective staff are so incredibly proud of this group of young people, our first group of Alice Miller graduates. Their education, I feel, has been one of which Aristotle would have thoroughly approved. It's been crafted by their teachers, of course, but also by the rich diversity of experiences and people that make up their lives, their family, their friends, and also their adversaries and their adversities. It's changed, challenged, grown them academically and intellectually, and just as importantly, it's fostered their empathy, their emotional and mental resilience, and their capacity to be warm, inclusive human beings. We've seen them all at their best and at their worst, and many of the spaces in between. What makes me so proud of this group sitting on the stage is that you've all shown that you can work incredibly hard. You've shown you can support others as they work hard. You've shown that you're inclusive, engaged with the world, capable, resilient, kind. You're fun and funny and lively, and they're all qualities that are invaluable to possess. And right now, they are yours. Before you get thoroughly full of your own self-importance, however, let me reassure you that you're not perfect, and that's okay. But you are all, right now in this moment, as well equipped as a person can be to live a wonderful life. You're a tremendous group of young people with whom it has been at times a challenge and an exasperation, but mostly a pleasure and a true delight to work with. And again, we are all very truly proud of you. The special awards that we're about to bestow are testament to the kind of education that Aristotle was talking about. So now we're going to celebrate the students who embody education of both the mind and the heart. We're going to start by presenting the English Literature Award to Bethany Robertson. And don't sit down, Beth, because we're also about to present you the Humanities Award. Now for Yasmin, the Visual Arts Award. For Sinead, the Performing Arts Award. The Math Science Award for Oliver. And I have to read these ones, sorry. The Academic Excellence Award for Bethany, awarded to the student who's consistently demonstrated outstanding results across the breadth of their VCE program. awarded to a student who supported members of the Alice Miller community with outstanding kindness, empathy and understanding. Our first altruism award recipient is Oliver Mitchell. And our second altruism award recipient is Shanae. Next is our True Grit Award, awarded to the student who has embraced the opportunities at Alice Miller with outstanding resilience, persistence and determination, for Callum Gibson. And finally, the Alice Miller Award for Harrison Nelson, awarded to the student who exemplifies a willingness to engage with the world in a brave and open way, with a dedicated heart and a brave and adventurous spirit.
So we do now come to the end of this historic event, which is the first graduation of our Year 12 students from the Candlebark Alice Miller conglomerate, if I can call it that. I'd like to, it struck me when you were sitting there that you've almost formed a jury, and I was counting and thinking, well, it's a jury even with an alternate member, so in case anyone gets sick, there's someone available to replace them, so that we don't have to abort the trial. But I'm hoping you'll render a sympathetic verdict to us, and I get the impression from your speeches tonight that that is the case. It's been a great pleasure sitting there and listening to what you've said, but also quite emotionally harrowing, I have to admit. And I don't remember having so many, such a need to mop my eyes so frequently as I have done in the last hour or so. And Sarita, I hope you had a very big box of tissues there next to you, because I'm sure you would have needed it too. It falls to me to thank a number of people again who've already been thanked, as well as a few other people. And I wanted to start with the parents who have been so adventurous and such risk takers yourselves in allowing us the privilege of educating your sons and daughters. Because to send people to a school which is new, which is really an abstract entity before it takes concrete form, and to trust the school enough to commit such an important task to us does show great courage on your part. And your continuing support of us over the 2 years that we've been up and running has been tremendously helpful to us, and obviously the school just couldn't function without that. It would close overnight if we lost that. And so it's been steadfast and generous, and we are deeply appreciative of it. I know Callum's already mentioned Bob tonight, and I wanted to just add my voice to Callum's in acknowledging him and his tremendous contribution to the physical fabric of the school, and as well in an abstract way, in the way that he models roles to different students around the school, the way in which he engages with people in such an honest and good-humoured, even if his jokes are terrible, nevertheless, it is a good-humoured way and a very generous way. And his maintenance crew, which has been a big crew of Mike and John O'Rourke and Luke and Mitchell and Oliver. But we've had a lot of work to do on the fabric of the school, and a lot of work in the future which we need to do on the fabric of the school, and so it's in very good hands there. With Penny and Veronica and Kitty, we have a tremendous backup team who are able to cover so many different areas of the school's life with such generosity of spirit and with such a wide range of skills. And to have what in many ways are the two most important areas of the school, the front office and the cafe area, which really capture the spirit of the school either successfully or unsuccessfully, either in a positive way or a negative way. And I'm sure many of you have been in environments where that has been quite a negative atmosphere. I remember going to a high school not 100 kilometres from here and seeing a big sign on the front door saying students must not use this entrance. They had to go around the back to what used to be called the servants' entrance in the old days. And then on the wall in the lushly carpeted reception area was a big sign done in beautiful calligraphy, which was headed Principals of the School, and the first principle was all students will be treated with courtesy and respect. But that seemed to be sadly lacking. When I turned to the front counter, there was a sign saying no student will be served unless dressed in full correct school uniform. And it's that kind of negative and hostile atmosphere which is so degrading to the dignity of young people that we have tried to avoid at Alice Miller and Candlebark. And the way Penny and Veronica and Kitty have contributed so much to the atmosphere of the school is really absolutely key to what we do. The teachers of Candlebark, who are represented here tonight by Kate Tucker and Sam Ford and Joanne Croak, and who have cared so deeply and passionately for a number of you, and who are so excited to see this graduation event tonight, and to know that this educational journey has completed in this very moving and a way in which makes us all feel good about what has been achieved over these years. And the teachers of Alice Miller, who have collaboratively and individually worked so well over 2 years to achieve what we've seen tonight, and to achieve the positive way in which students have engaged with the VCE exams in recent weeks. We were increasingly worried during the year about how well some students would cope with the pressures and the challenges of the actual sitting in that room for 3 hours and or whatever time, and doing those quite arduous and challenging exams. And yet the preparation that the teachers have done for that event has been, I think, very successful, because our students have handled it with great resilience and a very good spirit. The way in which students who were at the school when exams finished would go to the gym and greet the students who were leaving the exam room as an act of solidarity, an act of generous support, was one of the little things that made us feel that this is indeed an exceptional group. I wanted to particularly mention a couple of teachers. Basil, who will be away next year on leave. He's taking a year off for fresh adventures. And I wanted to acknowledge just how enormous his contribution has been over the last 2 years, and to mention also that it's really his fault that Alice Miller is here, because he was the one who said to me some years ago, wouldn't it be great if we had a secondary school in the Macedon Ranges which was particularly open to the arts and particularly supportive of the arts. And so for all the work that you've caused me to have to do over the last few years, Basil, thank you very much. And for all the dealings with the VCAA and the VRQA and all the incredible grind of bureaucratic processes that we've all had to go through. Thanks, Basil. But seriously, your contribution to the school is so inestimable, so beyond words, and yet so well understood by everyone here. And Sky, as I said the other day in a staff meeting, I couldn't even spell VCE until I met Sky, and she has brought an extraordinary knowledge of the processes of VCE to the school. She only works officially 4 days a week, but somehow she gives the impression that she works 80 hours in those 4 days, and that's a pretty remarkable thing too. But also in her caring for the students, in her pastoral care, in the hours in which she spends just talking to them, listening to them, and sitting with them and helping them through the difficulties of their lives, as well as the brilliant teaching that she brings to her own subjects. She has been an absolutely exceptional leader of VCE and Year 12. And Sky, I just want to pause for a moment to really acknowledge that and to say how grateful we are for all that you've done over this time. Thank you, Sky. One of the things that we've always believed very strongly is that we have to prepare the students so that they can open any door that they wish when they leave school. So if someone wanted to study a particular subject at a particular university and they were not able to do so because we hadn't taught them effectively, if they wanted to take a year off and travel through Russia and they couldn't do so because they lacked the courage and resilience to dare to contemplate such a thing, if they wanted to become perhaps professional baseball pitchers is going a bit far, but whatever their goals are and whatever path they wanted to take when they left school, we wanted them to be able to take those paths and to make sure that we did everything we could to bring about those possibilities. And so Sky's contribution to making sure that in particular the academic side of things was done in a constructive and organised and positive way has been incredibly important. And believe me, dealing with those bureaucratic bodies is incredibly difficult. They are very demanding, very exacting, as they have to be, of course. And with a new school, they're particularly vigilant about making sure that we do everything properly, to the point where it sometimes seems ridiculous to us, but nevertheless, we've succeeded in ticking all the boxes that they required to be ticked. Sarita, I don't know what to say really, apart from how grateful I am to you for taking this on in the first place and for doing it in such an extraordinary way. Your leadership of the school, the way in which you manage not only the demands of bureaucracy, but also the daily routines of the school and organising the fine detail, the micromanagement of the school, and more importantly on a macro scale, dealing with staff, with parents, with students of course, and being able to somehow retain your poise, your balance, your integrity in what are often very demanding and challenging circumstances means that you are an inspiration to us all, I think I can safely say, and certainly for me personally, I have learned so much from you and you continue to inspire me with the way you lead this school. And so I would like to just thank you publicly for what you have done already, and I look forward with great excitement to what will be achieved in the future. Thank you so much. And finally, I turn to the jury. And in 40 years of teaching, I really feel silly saying that, it just doesn't seem such a long time. But in 40 years teaching, I think I've managed to avoid all acronyms in that time because I regard them as glib, as lazy, as superficial and usually meaningless. But I'm going to break that rule tonight and hit you with a very short acronym. It's one I saw only about a week ago, but I really liked it because it was practical and simple, and it was a strong reminder of something that is important and something we can easily lose sight of. And it's the word HALT, so these acronyms are always cute, they always spell out some kind of cute word. This one spells out H-A-L-T, HALT. And I suppose the reason for it being that particular group of letters is that it reminds us to stop sometimes and just do a quick stock take of what's really going on. And in that acronym, H stands for hungry, A stands for angry, L stands for lonely, and T stands for tired. And the words I want to leave you with are that when you find yourself getting stressed, when you find yourself having to make difficult decisions, when you find yourself starting to sink in terms of relationships or work or other demands on you, then just do that little stock take and ask yourself, how many of those letters apply to me right at this moment? Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired? If more than one of those, or even one of those, applies to you at that moment, then you're probably not in the best shape to be making the best decisions. And so to remedy those situations where possible, it's obviously easy to remedy the hungry situation, I'm an expert in that myself, but and tired is not too difficult to remedy. The other two, angry and lonely, are often more challenging, and yet they are incredibly important. And so those four things which can so negatively impact on us, and we're often too hungry or angry or lonely or tired or all of the above to recognise that we are in those states and to recognise the impact that those states are having. So to be able to do that stock take, to assess where you're at and what's going on and whether you might be able to get yourself into better shape for making the decisions that need to be made would be a terrific skill to take with you into your adult lives. So I will echo the other teachers who've spoken tonight and wish you the best of luck. You are ready for anything, you are capable of anything, you will achieve great things. I wish you great adventures and many interruptions, as the Chinese proverb goes, because it's the interruptions that are really the spice of life. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Year 12, 2017, the first Alice Miller cohort. That's a great blurry photo.